Coming up on the program, we're going to plant our tomatoes, and we're going to do it a very quick and efficient way.
If you're new to our channel, don't forget to hit the subscribe button.
Welcome to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener. I'm Joy Baird. Well, it's time to plant our tomatoes here in Zone 5A, and we're going to do it a different way. Number one, we're planting them in a raised bed. We built these raised beds because we were tired of weeding and we wanted to make it more efficient and more productive garden, so we minimized our ground garden and built the raised beds. So we filled the raised beds with compost that we had delivered. This bed here is 4 foot wide by 16 foot long. The two poles you see in the center, that's going to be part of our Florida weave support system when we get our fence post in at a later date. So we're 4 foot wide with a Florida weave planting. We can get these in a little tighter. So I've got 3 rows of tomatoes that's going to get planted here. 1, 2, and then where the drill's at is row 3. Okay, so with the 3 rows, traditional in the ground, we can go about 2 foot wide. With these rows here, with it confined in a raised bed, the Florida weave, I'm going to go 18 inches. We've done it before and it's worked really, really well. So how we're going to do this, we're going to use the Power Planter Earth Auger in order to make our garden, our planting much more quickly. Now these are just some of the sizes we have. I've got the pink 3x8, the 3x7, there's a black 3x7, there's a 3x12 that I have, and I've got a 2x7 here. So, and these are just 4 of a multitude of different sizes that powerplanter.com has available. And they are made in the USA, and you can see here got a couple of different, you got Australia, New Zealand, and the UK, as well as the United States. So you got many different options for people all over the world to go to the particular website of the region that you're in order to obtain the Power Planter Earth Auger that works best for your planting job. So we'll move these out of the way so I don't trip on. So I've got this divided out. We'll get 30 plants, 30 tomatoes in here, and I'm going to go start over there because I've got them marked. And the thing about these tomatoes, some we've started from seed, others we have bought from our independent garden center, and I'm just kind of gauging our rows. Now the thing that you need to be aware of about planting tomatoes or peppers or eggplants or green beans, they grow no matter how straight or how crooked the row is. So if you want a precise, beautiful row, you can put a string up, you can do measurements, however you want to do it. For us, as long as it's in the ground, it works. And this works as well in the regular ground as it would, so I'll demonstrate it over here. This is a walk path, but if you was going to plant something here, yeah, it does just as well there. So I'm going to get all of these holes dug, and then we will space. We're going to lay our tomatoes out because we've got a multitude of varieties. I think we've got 14 or 15 different varieties, and we've got 30 plants here, so we'll pick the best of the best, and we'll show you what we're talking about on that. So let me get these holes dug. We'll talk about how we're going to plant them, what we're going to use in the bottom of the hole, and we'll get these in the ground so we can start getting tomatoes in a couple of months. So we'll take a look at how these were grown in the root maker trays. This is the removable 18 tray, and it works very well to remove and then lay it out. You can see the roots there. It is more moist than what I want, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Here is a 32 cell tray, and the easiest way to remove plants from a tray is to let them dry a little bit, and when they dry, they retract away from the wall, and then they pull right out. You can see the root fibers. There's no wraparound. There's a lot of white roots, which means they're healthy, and more vigorous roots is a healthier, happier plant. This is the black brandywine there. So what we'll do is we'll lay these all out, and then we'll go through and I'll show you how we plant a tomato for the best success. Here's the tray of the removable 18s. I do want to show you, we're not planting everything. This is the main reason why you want to overplant and then select the plants in which you want to grow. These are golden nuggets, and they have done pitiable from the day that they germinated. They've had curled leaves. They've been lanky, even though they've been under light. Here's another. Even in the hardening off process, they just went downhill even quicker. So we're not going to plant any of these. So that's a sacrifice one. I mean, these were planted. This is a Mr. Stripey. I mean, that was planted the same day, same time, same conditions as the golden nugget. So you want to be selective on what you're planting, because if you have a sickly plant that you've nursed from a seed and you put it in the ground, it doesn't magically become healthy and grow. You're going to fight it the entire season, and you want it, something healthy like this is going to take off and grow and actually sustain itself through the growing season. So I'll get these, we'll get these laid out, and then we'll get them in the ground. All right, so we've got our selections made. This is just some of the tomatoes that we have. There will be some that will not get planted. Those will be the weaker ones. We didn't overplant this year, but we planted, we knew we were going to need 33 for this bed. So instead of doing like 100 plus seedlings, as we normally have done, we backed it off a great deal, so we'd only have about 50 or 60 total, and then we picked the best of those for this bed, the front yard garden, the sister-in-law's garden. So here's how you want to plant one of these tomatoes. All right, so I've dug the hole with the Power Planter earth auger, and it depends on the size of the plant, obviously, but we want to plant our tomatoes very deep. Reason being, all the hairs you see on the stem will turn into roots when it has contact with soil and the conditions are correct. So you want to plant these about 75 to 80% below where below the top, or the stem wise. So you would, above my fingers would be above the soil, everything else would be below. So based on how deep your hole is, we're not drilling into the native soil. Our beds are 10 inches deep. That's as far as we're going to go down. There's a lot of nutrient value in the soil, so that will be fine. And then this limb here, or this leaf, is going to be touching the soil, so I'm going to pinch that off. It's not going to hurt anything. Actually going to stimulate more growth on the plant. So next we want to take our fertilizer, whether whatever you use, whether it's a chemical fertilizer or organic fertilizer. This is a granular fertilizer, and it's best to use a slow release fertilizer because it's going to feed the plants over a duration period of time. It'll naturally release into the soil as the plants need it. So this particular type of fertilizer, I need 2 tablespoons per hole. And now I'm not going to put the plant directly on the fertilizer. I am going to put a little bit of soil down first, mix it in, so there's not complete contact. Now the other thing in which you can do is you can take and plant your tomato, fill the hole about half full, and then apply the granular fertilizer, but you want to be careful that you're not going to touch the stem because it can burn the stem. The reason why you could do it that way is as it rains, it's going to leach it into the soil deeper and around the root system, but either way will work. So now that we've got the fertilizer in, we want to backfill the hole, and that's how easy that was. Then we want to do mulch. We got shredded leaves. You can use chemical-free, seed-free grass clippings. You can use straw. The reason being multiple fold. 1, holding moisture in. 2, weed suppression. Though this is a raised bed, there will be weeds that will come up to a certain level. And 3, to prevent the soil from splashing up on the leaves of your tomatoes. 90% of the problems your tomato plant will face is the soil splashing up and causing diseases such as early blight. It's in everybody's soil. It doesn't matter what you do, it's in your soil. So combination of 3 steps in order to reduce or prevent the early blight that will be coming from the splash up. 1, you want to use whole grain yellow cornmeal, which we will apply when we find some. The yellow whole grain cornmeal, you take 1 handful and put it around the base of the tomato, right on the soil. Before or after you water, it doesn't matter. It has a beneficial bacteria in it called trichoderma that fights the early blight in your soil. Then you take your mulch and cover the trichoderma, or the whole grain cornmeal, cover that, and then you can water it in and it's fine. And then throughout the growing season, you want to continue to trim the bottom 6 to 8 inches of the plant to open up that lower portion of the plant for air circulation and the reduction of the soil splashing up on the plant. Now, as these leaves break down, we will add additional mulch onto the soil. Seed-free, chemical-free grass clippings, which means that they go to seed. You don't want to bring in like dandelion cuttings, mulch in here. Also, if you spray your lawn with a weed and feed of a non-organic material, it has a persistent herbicide that is a broadleaf spray, or broadleaf chemical that will kill your plants, your tomatoes, your eggplants, your peppers, your broadleaf plants. It bonds to that grass, and then when you water and it rains, it releases that chemical into the soil and poisons the soil. Even in the compostable form, if you take them grass clippings, put in your compost bin, turn it into black soil, incorporate that as a top dressing, it will taint your soil, and it's a couple of it takes a while to re-mitigate the soil to get that chemical to get out of it. So that's the basics of planting tomatoes in a raised bed, in a ground garden, in a container. It's all the same. Now, we're not caging these tomatoes. We're going to do in a future episode a Florida weave. Now, a Florida weave simply is a method of using strings in order to support the tomatoes rather than using cages. We will have 3 fence posts on this end and 3 fence posts on that end, using agricultural twine and making somewhat similar to a boxing ring rope system, running a string, and then as the plants grow, letting the plants hang on that string as a cage mechanism. So that's how we're going to do that. So when you don't see cages, that's the reasons why. So that's really simple. We're going to come back. We're going to get these planted, and then we'll do some final maintenance on these, and we'll get them ready for a summer of happy, healthy growing production of tomatoes. So we got our tomatoes all planted. We saved leaves from last year, and we had a big pile of them in the garden. So we mulched them and put them in just a pile, and we're using that as mulch. Just a good leaf mulch. Now, if you don't have the leaves available, again, you can use straw, chemical seed-free grass clippings, whatever you need to use, shredded paper, in order to prevent that soil or reduce the amount of soil splashing up on the leaves. Now, when we get the yellow whole grain cornmeal, we'll come in and just dress it around on top of the leaves, and in a couple of weeks, we'll go ahead and put our irrigation system in. So that's as easy as it is, a simple, effective, productive way to grow tomatoes. As always, thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe, rate, and comment.